Welcome to Elevate English. Elevate your English. Elevate your life. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to the Elevate English channel. Let's start our story. The Timekeeper's Love. In a quaint European village nestled between rolling hills and a glimmering lake, there stood an ancient clock tower, its hands eternally marking the passage of time. The townsfolk revered the tower as the heart of the village, and its caretaker, Alaric, was just as much a part of its soul. Alaric was a quiet man, with an unruly mop of chestnut hair and glasses perpetually perched on his nose. He had inherited the role of timekeeper from his father, who had inherited it from his. Each morning, Alaric would wind the clock, tend to its gears, and polish its face until it gleamed like the dawn. But Alaric had a secret. He could hear the clock speak. The clock didn't use words but rhythms, subtle shifts in its ticking that only Alaric could decipher. It was through this intimate connection that Alaric learned of the town's moods, the weather's whims, and even the secrets of its people. He thought himself content with this solitary life until the day a stranger arrived. Her name was Maren. She arrived in the village on the heels of a storm, her cloak soaked and her suitcase worn. Maren was an artist, drawn to the village by tales of the enchanting clock tower. She hoped to paint it as part of her series on time's passage and its beauty. From the moment Alaric saw her eyes alight with curiosity and her laughter like wind chimes, he felt a strange stirring in his chest, as though the clock itself had skipped a beat. Maren, intrigued by the clock and its quiet keeper, began visiting daily, setting up her easel at the base of the tower. At first, Alaric watched her from a distance, his heart caught between yearning and caution. But Maren was not one to be ignored. She struck up conversations about art, time, and the way the world seemed to move slower in the shadow of the tower. "I think you're part of its magic," she said one day, her brush gliding across the canvas. Alaric chuckled softly. "The magic is in the tower, not me. I'm just its caretaker." "Perhaps," Maren replied, her eyes meeting his, "but every spell needs a caster." As the weeks passed, their connection grew. Maren shared stories of her travels, her struggles to find meaning in fleeting moments. Alaric, in turn, spoke of the clock's rhythms, how it seemed to know when a villager was in despair or when joy swept through the town. Maren listened with fascination, her artistic mind weaving his words into images. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Maren asked, "Have you ever left the village?" Alaric shook his head. "The clock needs me. It's my duty to stay." Maren's expression grew wistful. "But what about what you need? Do you ever think about that?" Alaric hesitated. He had never dared to ask himself such questions. The next morning, the clock's ticking was different, hesitant, as though it were holding its breath. Alaric felt its knees deep in his chest. Something was changing. That afternoon, Maren appeared with her easel and paints, but her usual smile was subdued. "I've been offered a commission," she said, avoiding his gaze. "In the city. It's a big opportunity." Alaric's heart sank, though he tried to keep his voice steady. "That's wonderful. You should take it." Maren nodded, her fingers tightening around her paintbrush. "I leave in 2 days." That night, Alaric climbed to the top of the clock tower, his heart heavy. He ran his hands over the clock's gears, seeking comfort in their steady movement. But the clock's rhythm was restless, as though it were urging him to act. The following day, Maren came to bid him goodbye. She found him waiting at the base of the tower, a small package in his hands. "This is for you," Alaric said, his voice soft. Inside was a delicate pocket watch, its face adorned with intricate engravings of stars and constellations. "It's beautiful," a Marin whispered. "It's yours," Alaric said. "So no matter where you go, you'll always have a piece of this place. A piece of me." Marin's eyes filled with tears. "Come with me," she blurted. Alaric's breath caught. He looked up at the tower, its silhouette stark against the setting sun. "I can't," he said finally. "The clock, it needs me." Marin stepped closer, her hand brushing his. "But do you need it more than I need you?" Alaric was silent, torn between his love for the tower and the burgeoning love he felt for Marin. The next day, the village gathered to see Marin off. Alaric stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart aching as she boarded the carriage. As it began to move, Marin turned, her eyes meeting his one last time. For weeks after her departure, the clock's ticking was slow, mournful. Alaric immersed himself in his work, trying to ignore the emptiness that had settled in his chest. But every night, as he wound the clock, he thought of her, the artist who had painted his world in color and then left it gray. One morning, as he polished the clock face, a familiar melody drifted through the open window. His heart raced. He ran to the tower's base and found Marin standing there, her suitcase in hand and her eyes bright with hope. "I finished my commission," as she said, smiling. "And I realized there's only one place where I want to paint. One person I want to be with." Alaric's voice trembled. "The clock." Marin stepped closer, placing a hand over his heart. "The clock will keep ticking. But what about us?" Alaric reached for her, pulling her into an embrace. For the first time, the clock chimed with joy, its rhythm steady and strong, as though it, too, celebrated their reunion. From that day on, the clock tower remained the heart of the village, but its timekeeper no longer lived in solitude. Together, Alaric and Marin filled the days with love, laughter, and art, proving that even the most steadfast traditions could make room for the heart's desires.